40 million return shipments of clothes annually in Germany alone. 40 million. And this equals about 20,000 one-way flights, Hamburg to New York each year, 20,000. And this is only the shipments. In addition to this, we have the costs on the retailer sides for handling, sorting, cleaning, and reintroducing into the sales chain, or in the worst case, destroying it right to the landfill. And I felt there must be options for reducing the volume of online returns. It's not a God-given fact that it has reached this level and is increasing.
Okay. Great, thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions for Jürgen about this particular thing? Anything to clarify your understanding before we start going down the path of doing the different activities for the LDJ? Anything you want to clarify, or that you're curious about beyond the link he's kind of produced here or put in the mural, as well as the details that he's been going over?
Can you repeat what was the carbon footprint number?
Basically, DHL estimates 500 grams per parcel shipped.
That's interesting, and thanks for repeating that. Here in the States, speaking for myself, but I think it probably is true for most, we're not used to thinking in terms of the grams of a carbon footprint. So that's a real interesting dynamic to hear those numbers and try and quantify that. Seems like a lot.
Anybody else? Nope. You are an easy bunch to please. I'm only kidding. All right, so let's get right into this. I am now currently live streaming on YouTube, so that people want to see what we're doing, they can. What I will tend to do is I will, more often than not, mute everyone's microphones so that there's kind of silence overall. This is just to make sure that if there are distractions like squirrels that come into the picture, or perhaps the constant Slack clicking on my side, that you won't get really distracted by that too much. This will probably take about 45 minutes overall to get through. This is one of those exercises where it goes from state to state. There may be some new activities in here that you may not have known or have heard of, but I'll basically explain them when we get to them. So the first thing we're going to do is that after kind of hearing Jürgen's explanation and what this idea and challenge is all about, we're going to go to some things that are working currently when it comes to customer returns. And especially with some things that are stating here. We want to start with accentuating the positive, things that may be convenient, things that work for us from a personal point of view. So what you want to do in this section is to kind of look on a gray card and double click on it. Once you do, you'll be able to edit it and go ahead and put something in here about the topic that seems to be working. So one of the things is that when it deals with customer returns, I'm given a longer time frame to return an item, right? So that would be one possible dimension of customer returns that's positive. We'll take about 2 minutes, and this is just basically a kind of a practice session, so that there are no right or wrong answers with any of this. This is just to get used to kind of working with Mural and interacting with the interface. So go ahead and put some positive things that are related to the topic of customer returns, things that you find advantageous or positive on your side. And you'll see the timer at the very top of the screen within Mural. We'll have for 2 minutes. If at any point during this process you need more time for any of the exercises, feel free to just speak up, or you can put something in Slack and chat, and then I'll just increase the timer by 1 or 2 minutes so you have more time to think about the activity you're working on.
Sorry, Robert, could you please send me the link, because the link to the moral board doesn't work for me. I again.
And who is speaking?
Fatima.
Fatima. Okay.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Just hang on 1 second. And that would be the green designer, correct?
Yes, yes, it's my email.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So you should see something in your email. And that click means you joined. And Fatima, don't worry too much about putting too many cards in this particular exercise. Again, like I said, this is practice. The one that's coming up is probably the one that you need to focus on. If you're still working on a digital card right now, go ahead and wrap it up. So we're almost at time. And by doing that, if the card is still selected, after you're done, just click anywhere in the white space outside of it, and that should deselect the card you're on. Okay, now that you worked on the things that are working, we're going to talk about the obstacles and problems related to the topic. So the customer returns, in the way that Jürgen has put it here, has stated a lot of facts really regarding ordered goods, how many are returned, the carbon footprint involved with that, the impact of the environment. But this is going to be a mix of your perspective as well as what you've heard in terms of your perception of the problem. So again, I'll bring everybody to this side so you can kind of see what I'm looking at. So similar to what you just did on the positive side, now we're going to go into the challenging side by double clicking on a card, putting in something challenging about this, where it's like lots of cardboard is being wasted on small items. Because sometimes I get shipped like a printer cartridge in a huge box with a bunch of air pockets, and it doesn't really make sense to me. So that, from my standpoint, seems to be problematic. So you're doing this from your perspective, and also from what Jürgen has kind of put in there in terms of what you think is problematic or challenging about customer returns and the impact it has to the environment. So this time around, we're going to give you 3 minutes. And like I said before, if you need more time, go ahead and tell me, and I'll go ahead and add some more time. And I will mute my microphone because I know I type way too loud. So you have about a minute left. If anyone needs some extra time, just say so in chat, or you can just speak up and unmute the microphone. Okay, if you're working on a digital card, please finish up and then click anywhere in the white space to deselect.
I've got to jump. I got to step away for a second. My dog has been hunting. I'll just leave it.
Oh, all right. Well, feel free. That's fine.
I'll be right back.
Okay. So as we wait to find out what delicious morsel the dog has brought back, although hopefully it's not a squirrel, that would be kind of tragic. Let me go ahead and start bringing in some of the items that were written out over here. So, anonymous line, oh, never mind. Wrong one. We have one card that's still selected, I believe. The ordering errors create additional returns. I can't snag that until it's unselected, so I'm going to just duplicate it over here. And I'll make it part of the set on this side. Right, I'm going to go ahead and zoom out just for a little bit. And I'm going to take all of these, arrange them in a grid, bring them over here. Okay, so this next part we're doing here is called affinity diagramming. Now, some of you are familiar with it, so much so that you've already jumped into the exercise and started making categories. But the way this works is you're going to take all of the different cards that you see here in this area that you just did in the problem section, and you're going to basically put them in certain categories. So if you see 2 or 3 cards that are similar, you want to put them underneath the category, give the category a name and then go ahead and move the cards physically up to them. This is basically a group exercise, so everyone can kind of move cards around and put categories where they feel that they need to be. What you want to do towards the end is if you see 2 cards that are very, very, very similar in terms of their nature, you probably want to put one to the side, or just I'm hesitant to say delete it, but just basically to move it over to the far left or far right so it's outside of the affinity diagramming if it seems like there's a bit of a conflict. Or if you want to speak up and say, well, there's 2 cards that are very, very close, what do we do? We can kind of cross that bridge towards the end. But for now, go at it. Go ahead and read the different great cards, put them in different categories where they seem to make sense, and stack them vertically on the page. And we'll give you, well, I won't have any kind of time limit for this since we're pretty good on time, but go ahead and take and, kind of organize in a fashion that makes sense to you. And don't worry about being neat in terms of like the stacks, because Mural has some native tools you can use to basically organize those, and I can show them in my share. And again, I should point out there is no right or wrong way of doing this. This is just basically what the group seems to think makes sense in terms of ordering. Okay, it looks like we're pretty much there. So let's do a cross-reference, and if there are two cards that you see that are pretty much almost carbon copies of one another in terms of like what they say, but let's do it this way. If you're looking at the share, what you want to do is basically take a particular card and go ahead and click this to put a border around it, and then change the color from gray to an arbitrary color like blue. Something where if you see two of the same type, we can look at them and then make a basically a judgment call there. So I'll take this back and bring it into there. Not all of them are going to be like that. I mean, it just if on its face, it just basically seems right off the bat that there's such a similarity that they need to be looked at. And Josh, I'll answer that question in just a second. Okay, so it looks like we have two. There's several that where they go into the sizes don't match, single reason for return, doesn't have the right size, different than expected, seen online. Does anyone feel strongly that one of these two have to be combined into the same one, or that one of them has to be eliminated? You don't have to. They don't have to be, but this is just to showcase that there are real common variations between particular cards. No? Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is go through a voting session. And the way this works in Mural, if you go into the share, and I'll also gather people around so you can see what I'm doing, is that we're going to be voting not on the categories themselves, but we're going to be voting on the actual cards that you're seeing on the screen. Now, in this particular activity, you want to make it so that you vote for like one vote per card. We've had some problems or perception problems of putting multiple votes on one card that could skew the results. So out of everything that's here, let's see, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. We have about 30. I think I'm going to give everyone about 7 votes. You can place those votes anywhere you want in terms of the cards down here, but not on the categories themselves. What you're going to be basically trying to answer is, what are the most compelling problems related to the idea or challenge? These are going to be problems that you want to move forward with and kind of think and have the opportunity to ideate as well, to explore some solutions. So again, I'll give everyone 7 votes. If you can, you don't want to select any of the cards right now. Make sure that you're deselected and you don't have anything active, so that when we go into this voting session, you're able to vote on all the cards, right? Okay, so in Mural, what you want to do is click on a card to vote on it, hit your Shift key, and then click on that same card to remove a vote, and no one will be able to see where you put your cursor. The only thing I'm going to do is do a play-by-play in terms of how people are voting and what they're voting on. Not what they're voting, sorry. Like how many votes they have left. And then I'll let people know, how close we are to finishing up our voting session. Let me get to your question, Joshua, that you had asked. So why do we do the first step if in the LDJ, if we don't touch on it at all after? The first part of it is just to give contrast to what works versus what doesn't work. Some people have noted and have asked for just a contrast, so they can basically say, okay, what's the opposite of what the positive is, to give to basically frame in their mind how to say, okay, what doesn't work. It also jogs the memory in terms of something in the past that somebody may have experienced but have forgotten about. So it's a combination of getting used to the Mural board, but also to set the stage for when they're thinking about problems. Okay, cool. Joshua, makes sense. Thanks. Happy to help. So the cat was first, and I believe that, I think I know what the cat is, but cat goes first, Gorilla's second, Fatima's right behind, the third. Everybody else is thinking about their votes. I, for one, will not be voting, just so I'm not going to be skewing the vote one way or another. This is strictly with people that are taking part. But we have a snake in a line that don't look like they're voting yet. They may be away from their desk, or maybe they're just observing, which is totally fine. But when the people that are actively voting get done, if those 7 votes stay that way for 30 seconds, then we end the voting session. Just as a just so everyone's aware. So I assume that your votes aren't moving after 30 seconds. You've either lost your internet connection, or you're off getting tea, or somebody's at the front door ringing the doorbell, or you know, your dog's caught another squirrel and you have to kind of chastise them for doing so because it's ruining the yard. Whatever your situation may be, I'll just kind of run with that. Looks like we just have a Snake and Josh who are left voting, or still voting. Josh is finishing up pretty fast. And Snake is taking the time, making sure they get the right votes right. But they're taking some time to think. And not looking at my phone to be distracted, I am setting up a timer. So we are at 30 seconds. I'll give you another 30 seconds. When this goes off, then we move on and close the voting session and go to the next stage. So Mr. Snake or Mrs. Snake, if you are voting, you have this much time to put in your votes, please. By the way, I do like this new kind of way of the timer going off. Right. Cool. Oh, there you go. The snake, the vote went on, vote went off really fast. Okay, we're ending the voting session. We are going to look at the combination of the most voted digital cards as well as the ones that were uniquely voted. You should see the results on your screen. And it looks like we have one that was a clear winner, where it had the most votes and the most unique voters, well, the most unique votes, where companies compete around making things more convenient and not more eco-friendly. Now, we did have a lot of second place votes, ones with 5 votes as well as 5 unique voters. So when this happens, we do something called, well, we do an additional exercise just to make sure we're vetting out the right problem. So we do have the leader here with 12 votes. We have a number of ones that have 5. And we're going to do an exercise down below that kind of sorts them out by importance, I believe it is. We've used importance of priority previously. Well, we're going to use priority. Okay. So, oh, give me a minute. I didn't copy everything. Okay. So I'm going to call everyone down here, just down below the area we were just in. And this is what we're going to be doing. So we had one particular challenge that was the most voted on and didn't have as many unique votes, but it was pretty dominant. So let's go ahead and take the companies. I want to make sure I'm going to select the first one. So the way this works is that we're going to take this. Companies compete around making things more convenient, not more eco-friendly. And we're going to weigh it in importance in terms of where it belongs in the scale. Is it very high in importance or very low in importance? Now, the way to do this is just like the gorilla's doing. You're basically taking your mouse cursor and you're making a circle somewhere around the line on where you think something should be. Now, don't move the cards yet. We're going to do these one at a time and do kind of a group kind of vote. But this is kind of where you put your mouse over top the line when it comes to this. So Companies compete around making things more convenient, not more eco-friendly. Put your mouse and start circling it around somewhere on the line where you think it should be. Looks like the snail's way over here. The anonymous cat says it's way off the charts in terms of importance. Somewhere over there, we have a lot of people that are kind of going right around here. So let's say it's just around there, okay? Then we go to retailers aren't set up to efficiently handle return stock. In relation to this one we just placed, is it less important or more important? And looks like people are kind of here. There's the snails way over here, kind of looking like it's right around there, okay? Next one, it doesn't have the right size, i.e. online, offline difference. So in terms of where these two are placed, is it more important or less important than this one or this one? And we got one over here, we got the line here, we got 3 over here, 2 here. So it looks like there's more of a leaning towards this side. Would you say, would it be less important or more important than this one? If we're just talking about retailers aren't set up to handle efficiently stock, got 4 or 5 arrows here, 2 here. I think it kind of beats out a little bit and goes here, right around there. Okay. We're almost done. Ordering a lot of stuff and returning can become a habit. Where in relation to these 3 boxes do you feel that this one should go? Wow, there's a bunch of arrows. Okay, I'm not even going to do a play-by-play. That just goes there. And people are not aware of the damage to the environment. Where does this particular one sit? So, well, we got a lot. We have a lot of frantic people that are going there. So it seems like it's right around here. Now the question is, does it belong on this side or does it belong on this side, with the right side or left side of this card? So put your arrow on either side of that box and you let me know where you think it should be. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. Looking like it's kind of, yeah, it's probably around here. So it looks like companies compete around things that are around, can't read it because pen is in the way. Hang on, gotta zoom in a little bit. Companies compete around making things more convenient, not more eco-friendly is the one we're gonna move forward with. I'm gonna go ahead and copy this and bring it down to this side over here. So hang on one second, doing a little bit of logistics here. And I'm gonna enlarge this a bit. Right, so I'm gonna summon everyone again. Come on over here. We're now on the left side of the mural. And what we're gonna be doing is reframing this problem as a challenge. So if you've never done this before, we're gonna be using a process called How Might We? Now, if you're curious about this process, there's some lesson information down very below on the very bottom of this mural. But for now, I'll basically explain it in very high level terms. How might we's are basically meant to explore a problem without jumping to conclusions. It's meant to kind of explore some possibilities related to the problem, some general direction on where you could take things. So for example, if you were looking at this in terms of companies compete around making things more convenient, not more eco-friendly, one how might we might be phrased as like, how might we make eco-friendly products more, we make the perception, well, let me put it a different way. Make eco-friendly products seem more of a competitive advantage for companies. That's one possibility. So you're not necessarily saying that they should do something like a company or an organization or a person or a thing, but there is a solution to go after right away. You're just basically asking the open-ended question of where it could go in relation to this particular problem. So it may seem a little foreign, it may seem a little strange at first, but just kind of walk through the motions. We're going to take 3 minutes for this. If you need more time to kind of think about it, then do so. And again, I will emphasize, there is no wrong answer with this. All you're really doing is just exploring where you can go with this problem in terms of some possibilities that you're thinking about based on what you heard in the beginning and where we've been kind of going so far with this lightning decision gen. But again, 3 minutes. If you need more time, feel free to speak up. Otherwise, go ahead and double click on a card that has HMW on it. You can use that acronym or spell it out like I did and just work at it. I'm going to take a quick stage exit left to grab my charger because I'm about to go dark if I don't. So you may see the back of a couch, but that's only because I'm not here. Okay? And I will be back very shortly. We have about a minute left. Does anyone need more time? If you are working on a digital card, go ahead and either finish it up or deselect it. I'm going to start making some moves to organize all the how might we's together. Okay. Give me just 1 second. Do a quick organization. This particular template wasn't updated before we had gotten the chance to do the session, so I'm just doing some on the fly modifications. So bear with me here for a second. And that was my fault, by the way. I thought I had put the right one in there, but that's okay. Okay, if this looks familiar, then the reason being is that we are about to do another kind of organization session. And again, kind of put the cards in via affinity diagram and go ahead and put the cards in an order that makes sense to you under particular groups. Feel free to go at it in a way that makes sense to you. And again, if you see a couple of cards that are very, very, very similar, color them by a different color besides gray and put a border around them. And so that all of us can kind of take a look at them and see if there's reason to remove one or two of them or to just be aware that there's a similarity between them. So go for it. There's no timer for this. Just go ahead and organize in a fashion that makes sense to you. Hey, Andy Davis. If you're there, unmute your microphone, please.
Yes.
Did you get my email about the GVDS presents on Tuesday? Is that still okay?
Yes, I just replied to you actually. So I'm all ready to roll. Hopefully I won't disappoint.
No, you won't disappoint. I want to make sure I got the bio right. I figured I might as well ask you while you're here rather than forget. Well, I afterwards I'll get distracted. So okay, cool. So if we're all set for tomorrow, then I'll just start sending out the promotions and we're good.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, and by the way, if there's, I forgot to mention this before, but there seems to be a card that does not make sense in terms of where it's located. You don't need to force it. Just basically put it and make sure it's just in the white spot there, anywhere where it needs to be, and it can just kind of live on its own. Okay, same as last time. If you see 2 or 3 how might we's that look very, very similar in terms of their nature, go ahead and color them, put a border on them. I'll give like 30 seconds to do that. If there isn't, again, don't try to force it. This is just to see, make sure that when we go through a voting session, we aren't necessarily voting on one that could split the votes. Oh, right there, yep. That one could probably go. There's 2 of them on there. I'll knock out this one. Bring that one back up. Good catch. Good catch, Anonymous Animals, which should be a name of the band. Okay, I think we're good. I'm gonna move this over. Now it looks like overall we have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 28. Let's do 7 votes again. Why not? Let's have some fun with it. So this one is going to be which of these how might we's are the most compelling? I like the word for some reason today, compelling to explore solutions for. Okay. 7 votes. Your votes will be anonymous. No one will know what you're voting on. You can click on a card to vote, shift click to remove it, and we won't be able to see where you're going. Again, do not vote on any of the categories. Vote on the gray cards underneath those categories. And once everyone is done voting, we're going to see the results and move those into either an importance matrix or going straight into ideation. So far, the lion and the cat were pretty fast in putting out their votes. I think the lion's with me in that they are not voting. So everyone else is on the tip for putting in their perspective. Not halfway done. We're just waiting on a panda, a snail, and Josh. Although I don't think all three of them would be in the same spot at one time. They might. Maybe in a zoo. Now Big Tom, the panda and the snail. Which one? Snail actually beats the panda. Who would have thought? All right, we're good. All votes are in. We're going to end the voting session, see where everything kind of worked out. Looks like we have 2 particular idea or how might we's that kind of came across that just edged out a lot of different ones that had 4 votes and 4 unique votes. How might we educate customers about the impact their return has on the environment? How might we help companies to provide eco-friendly and convenient service delivery? Those are pretty good. Let's go ahead and take those 2, and I'm going to bring them over just briefly into the priority matrix right next door. So let's go ahead and copy these and bring down here. I'll call everyone over when I'm looking at so that you're kind of in the same space. So really quick, we're just going to compare these 2 in terms of importance, just like last time. We're going to start with how might we help companies to provide eco-friendly and convenient service delivery. In terms of importance, go ahead and use your mouse and kind of do a small circle around the line like this, so I know where your interest lies with this particular one in terms of importance. Looks like the rabbit's not too impressed. We have 3 here and 3 here, so I'm going to plop it right down the middle between 2 of those. And then how might we educate consumers about the impact their return has on the environment? So it looks like the arrows are clearly out to the right of this, so I think this is the one we're moving forward with. I'm going to go ahead and eliminate that one, bring this one back up here. So give me 30 seconds to do some logistics. We will be on our way. So give me 1 second. Oops. Okay. So for this particular exercise, it's all about ideation. So we've worked out a problem. We've also kind of landed on a how might we, which is educating consumers about the impact their return has on the environment. Now, this is going to be more about quantity than it is quality. You're going to want to put as many different types of possible solutions or ideas that come to mind in relation to this how might we. You can go for practical, silly, absurd, thoughtful, whatever you'd like. But if you find yourself pausing more than 30 seconds on a particular one, you're probably getting too far into the weeds in your mind around where it could go. Just basically stay on the surface, start thinking of all sorts of different types of possibilities. Like one kind of impractical one is how might I educate consumers about the impact their return has on the environment is make some eco-friendly graffiti and share on social media, which is something I have seen done. Depending on the execution, it depends. Just sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But that's one possibility. So go ahead and you've already started. I'm going to start the timer for 3 minutes. We'll give you 3 minutes to kind of ideate. And again, go for quantity, not for quality. They can be silly, funny, smart, thoughtful. Just put them all out there, because what they tend to do is provide inspiration for other people, especially if they may get stuck in their head around where they could go with things. I will emphasize there are no right or wrong answers. So please put in what you feel would be interesting, silly, crazy, thoughtful, anything you like. Maybe even daring or bold. Something that you have no idea how to get it done, but it would be really fascinating if it could work. Don't worry so much about the how, just think of the end result. Okay, we have about 20 seconds left. If you are working on a digital card, go ahead and wrap that up. When you're done, make sure you just click anywhere in a white space to deselect your card. right? We are done with this section, or not this section, we're done with that state. Let's go ahead and you guessed it, it's time. I almost feel like a game show host. It's time for another round of affinity diagramming, and then the music comes in and blah, 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 blah. So I'm going to place the affinity diagramming little box here, put it right above ideation. So similar to last time. Bing, bang, bing, bang, 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 boom. Go ahead and organize in a fashion that seems intuitive to you by any category and by the names of the cards. Yeah, and just go ahead and go at it. We'll check for duplicates before we go forward, and then we will be just about done after this. We'll have about one more major activity to do. And for reference, we will be doing a group photo at the end to kind of capture the fact that everyone did this session, so that if I put it on social media, I can say, hey, this is what we did, and kind of include all of that information. And I will be asking for an interesting item somewhere around you that you'd like to showcase. So if you have time after this or a break in between after sorting everything out, you can grab it ahead in advance. And I already have mine. That's why I mentioned it. Not within reach, though. It's close. Now, one thing to note with this is that if a certain vertical column gets more than 10 cards, there's a good chance you could probably break it apart into something else. If you're still within the 8 or 9 card range, you should be okay. But when it starts getting long on the tooth, there's a chance there's probably a subcategory you could use in there. Again, for those cards that don't seem to have a home or a category, you can put them either to the far right or the far left. You should be good. And by the way, you can use more than 8 groups. I just put 8 as the kind of like a number that seemed to work well width-wise. You can add more categories if you wish to do so.
Robert?
Yes.
Is there a recommendation whether or not to put the category names beforehand, upfront, or after grouping the respective ideas?
There is not. It's essentially what you think would work well with your mental model. So if you're someone that it needs a category to put things in before you do, then you can go around that way. Or you could be someone that needs to put all the cards in one spot, thinking that there's some sort of match. And then when you start seeing the data in front of you, the category becomes realized. So I kind of opt for 2 different ways of kind of going about it.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. There's a group name over here on column number 8 that doesn't have a name but has 2 cards underneath it. I'm assuming, are these ones that don't have a home, or are they meant to be categorized but haven't done so yet? Okay, they're off. Okay, got it. And it looks like there's an orphan down here as well that I'm going to move over in that same spot. Let's put it right here. Okay, quick check. Let's see if there's anything in these rows that are so similar that we should point them out. Again, you want to select 2 cards, change the color so that we can bring attention to them if you see something. If we don't see anything in the next 30 seconds to a minute, I'll go ahead and start a round of voting to figure out which solutions are the most interesting for us to bring to a vote or to move forward in the next stage. And again, you don't need to force it, just something that on its surface looks like it's either a duplicate or the same. Yeah, those are similar in terms of like the impact. Yep, it could be. The question is that if you were to vote on one, would it seem like you're voting for both? Are they different enough so that they're not going to split a vote in the same way? So that would have to be something that you think about. Gamify the customer's return process and gamify the user experience of being more eco-friendly. Those are good too. Okay, personally for me, I don't think they need to be eliminated, just to basically call them out that they may be similar. So when you put your votes on, you'll need to be aware of that. But let's go ahead and do another round. Let's be generous. It's a Monday. We're still all getting our act together, well, at least I am. And we'll do a round of 8 votes this time. Vote on 8 particular, or put your votes on solutions that you think would be really interesting to explore. I'll go ahead and start it. Again, don't vote on the categories, but you can vote on orphans as well as the gray cards. What ideas or solutions are the most interesting to explore in a design sprint? Let's do it that way. 8 votes for everyone. Let's go ahead and start it up. Click on cards you like. Shift click if you want to remove your vote. And don't vote in the categories. Once this is done, we'll move into the final activity of the LDJ, which is prioritization. Well, not prioritization, but putting it through an Eisenhower matrix. And I'll explain how to do that. Okay, we are just about done. We have a few people left to vote. It's down to a lion. Oh, the lion. Last one. Okay, fantastic. Let's see how everything kind of worked itself out. Take a look at the voting results. And it looks like we have 3 with 7 votes and 6 and 5. So we have we have 3 clear kind of leaders. Gamify the user experience of being more eco-friendly, reward customers for returning less, and surface the carbon footprint at checkout, including if they were to return an item. All good ones. Let's go ahead and take those particular ones that had 7 votes with unique votes. And I'm going to really briefly bring it over to the right. So give me 1 second. almost done. Okay, let me bring everybody over to look at what I'm doing. Okay, so in this particular section, we're going to decide on what to execute. Now, this is meant for this lightning decision jam and this particular challenge and idea. This is meant to inform not only the people that are taking part in this, but the GVDS teams that are considering their challenges, what this particular group felt were compelling solutions to take the problem as well as the possibility. And for those who are going back to their particular groups that they're currently assigned to, you can have firsthand knowledge of what this particular group decided to kind of go with, so that if people want to know what to make of the mural or even the recording or the results, you would have a reference point as to what seems to work and what doesn't. So to kind of do this, on the right-hand side, if you notice, there's a blue dot, a gold dot, and a gray dot. And up here, there's the weekend section where there's a blue card, a gold card, and a gray card. In the impact interest matrix, in the x-axis is your personal interest in any of those three solutions. So if you're talking about the middle line, anything below to the left of the middle line is that, you're not really interested. If anything to the right would measure your current interest, like it's either, it's kind of interesting, or I want to do it tomorrow. On the y-axis is the impact. So for any of these three particular solutions, which do you think would have the most impact? If you start cascading downward, you probably think that this particular solution doesn't have any impact at all or very low, versus if you have it above the center line, then you probably think this particular solution has some pretty good impact or pretty good possibilities. So what you're going to do is you're going to basically double click on a particular circle and you're going to put your name in each one of these. So I'm going to do that just for example. I'm going to put Robert in each. Now for what you're going to do for each solution is you're going to take up the circle, like the gamify the user experience of being more eco-friendly. And you're going to put it in the center at first. And you're going to say, okay, for me personally, do I think this particular thing would have impact? So gamify the user experience of being more eco-friendly. Yeah, I think it would have a pretty good high engagement. So for me, just me now, I'm going to put it here. Now, if I have an interest in this personally, I have a really high interest in it because I come from a gaming background. I used to be a professional gamer. I competed. I did nonprofit. I worked with a nonprofit to do like LAN parties to encourage kids to get their grades up. And if they did, and they were rewarded with a LAN party. So I have a really involved background with it. Worked with Intel and AMD and Blizzard and all those companies. So I think there's potential in it. So I would probably put it here. And I would do the same for the gold as well as the gray. So the gold would connotate with this particular solution, and then the gray would connotate to or associate with this one. But they're still going to be put through the same matrix here. So go ahead and work through each dot in order. So start with the blue and figure out where in terms of your interest, as well as the impact you think the solution would make. And the same thing with gold and the same thing with gray in terms of those solutions. I will emphasize that if you are totally disinterested and don't think that a solution has impact, then go ahead and put that there. You aren't going to be judged if you do so. This is just to gauge from your own perspective what you think the potential and the interest is for these things. And we are at time. So I'll ask really briefly what people thought of this process, how we went about it today. It's slightly modified based on our last one and feedback we've gotten. If you think it was a worthwhile use of your time, and I can probably save the detailed feedback for any Slack messages or email that you'd like to send me in the future. But what's your first impression or your topmost thought around what you experienced today? And if you have no words, that's perfectly fine too.
As always, Robert, great job leading us through that. And I think the modifications are definitely streamlining it further. Looks good.
Cool.
I was quite impressed about the efficiency of the process.
Thank you for that. So what's interesting at first blush, at first glance of the results so far, where people are kind of putting their dots. Interestingly enough, there's more of a slight gold representation in the upper right than there is blue, even though blue is pretty close. And gray's not too far behind either. So potentially all three solutions potentially have like solutions that are compelling by different people. I will say that it looks like in terms of like things that are that people have an interest in, but people have high impact. There seems to be a little bit more gray than there is blue, but that kind of corresponds to the results. But it seems like there is like, yeah, there seems to be a real interest in surfacing the carbon footprint at checkout, just slightly over the other ones. But it's good to kind of see. Hey, don't put my name on there. What are you doing? Oh, you're just basically using my thoughts. That's fine. All right, I see what you're doing, Anna. It's fine. Please use my gray dot. In fact, I'll even put your name on it so you can go ahead and do it as well. There you go.
Robert, just to confirm, did you say that this is not so much to take into the design sprint these solutions, it's more to give people a feel for what potential solutions might look like and to see whether they are interested in participating in that particular challenge?
Correct. And then what happens is that the teams themselves have discussions around the challenges and which ones they'd like to do. So that discussion is going to be a mix of your own experience with a particular lightning precision jam and a topic, as well as the point of view from other people in your team, and then what seems to make sense going forward to do in November. So I'm assuming it'll be like an involved discussion, but it's a good one to have, especially if they felt there's a compelling reason to do one or the other.
Awesome. Thanks for clarifying.
No problem. Okay, so we are at time. I want to do one last thing before we all venture off and do our own thing. I'm going to do a full screen here really fast and shut down the chat. There we go. So I'd like to take a group photo of everyone who participated. If you can come off, if you can come on video, if you are video okay to do video, go ahead and grab something that's close to you, like some sort of personal item, something work item that you like to kind of put in front of the camera. Or you need to get up, you can go ahead and grab it. And that'll be the thing we end with today in terms of what we have. For me, I have a little Lego thing right here that I made with my son recently. He found like all the Legos he did a year ago and decided he wants to break them all apart and put them all back together again. But Dad is usually the one that kind of puts it back. So we're not going to tell him that. All right. If everybody has your item, put it in front of you so people can see. Kind of put it just like this and put your head over the side. Is everyone ready? Anna, you going to stay offline? You going to stay off video before I shoot this? All right. We'll make it that way. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Smile, everybody. All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time and the session. Hopefully it was really beneficial for you all. We've got plenty coming up this week if you want to spend more time on other challenges. Otherwise, you have yourself a good week. Enjoy yourselves. And nice doing a session with you all.
Thanks, Robert.
Right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.